Test. Good evening, everyone. Awesome. I'm glad you could make it. Welcome. I first want to say thank you so much to Tabernacle Church, Bible Church, for hosting us this evening for a kind of an update. We wanted a community meeting to update you on the Chester Lewis building, which is right across the parking lot from Tabernacle. My name is Gil Alvarez, Deputy Superintendent for the Wichita Public Schools, and I used to be principal at Northeast Magnet when Northeast Magnet was at this current building. Also used Matheson. The building was called that even before Northeast Magnet. So I am glad to be here with you and have done a lot of partnerships with Tabernacle Bible Church back when I was principal, so it's exciting to be back. Such great people here at Tabernacle, and we're just very thankful and grateful for the time and allowing us to be here today. We are here with you to talk about the Chester Lewis Alternative Program and the process of relocation from Chester Lewis to Cleveland Elementary due to structural damage that we found on the building itself. Before I get into it, I do want to say thank you for all the USD259 people that are here to help. If you would raise your hand and just so we can see, thank you all for being here. My two co-presenters, I have LaTanya Kennedy, who is our Director of Family and Community Engagement. You'll hear from her, as well as Corinthian Kelly, our new Director of Partnerships and Belonging. They will be here with me as well as we talk about this particular process. At the end, we'll also allow for questions. You should have received or picked up a handout that has a lot of the information that you'll see on the slides, as well as a ticket out handout that we're going to do to get some information from you, some ideas and some feedback before you leave today. So as Chester Lewis, when we I'm going to have to raise my hand to move the slide. So background a little bit for the Chester Lewis building in particular. Chester Lewis building is almost 75 years old. The location houses the Wichita Alternative High School, and I do want to say thanks to Leroy Parks, the principal of Chester Lewis. He is here also today, so thank you for being here. But it not only houses the Wichita Alternative High School, but it also houses our pre-K and early childhood department specifically, and our culturally linguistic diverse team, which total about 60 individuals in that particular building. The building also is around, or has around 115 to 130 students at any given time, and we really noticed this particular structural damage when we did when North High and East High had some structural damage as well, and they were getting repaired. We decided to look at all the schools that were about 70 to 75 years of age and go in to do just an inspection. And in that inspection is where we found some of the damaging or the structural damages that we found at Chester Lewis. And that's the routine. So work started. It wasn't just the structural damage either. We had some sewer issues underneath Chester Lewis. So we had to get that remediated immediately to allow our staff and students to remain. So that happened right away. However, with the cost, how expensive it was going to be for the structural concerns that were found, we had to make a decision specifically on what are we going to do with the building. And out of abundance of caution, we had to make sure that we were thinking of safety first. So we decided to move Chester Lewis to Cleveland Elementary. So Cleveland Elementary is on the south side of town, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, by the South YMCA. Next, you're going to see some of the pictures. So they're not only on the screen, but they're up here as well. So you're going to see some damage to the pillars underneath Chester Lewis, which provides the foundation of the entire building. You see the cracks that are there. And on this side, you'll also see some of the metal that's coming through the concrete that has been deteriorated. So because of that deterioration, and you can see, I'm not an expert in structural engineering, however, you can see by just the pictures how bad it is underneath. So that's another reason why we wanted to make that change. Go ahead and one more time. So because of these damaged parts of the building, and out of abundance of caution, we are going to vacate and close Chester Lewis building at the end of this particular semester, which is going to be December 22nd is when everybody should be packed. We're going to move all the stuff from Chester Lewis to Cleveland. So that's why we were here today, to provide some of the information as to why this particular building you'll see being abandoned, because we're going to move the staff and students out of that particular building. So where are we going? Chester Lewis is going to move to Cleveland Elementary, and once again, that is over there by the South YMCA. That's Meridian and 235. That's currently a temporary placement, and Cleveland was a school that was closed, so it was opportunity for us to move due to the situation that we had. We had an opportunity to move to this new building at Cleveland Elementary. Our ECHO team, or the early childhood team, and the pre-K team, they're moving to our site called the ISC building, or the Joyce Folk Instructional Support Center, which is on Main Street downtown. So Main Street and about Waterman, or close to Kellogg. So they will move into that building, and then the CLD team is going to move to Jackson Elementary, since they do a lot of work out of the school buildings. I think there's about 3 or 4 leaders or individuals that do the work for the cultural linguistic diverse team. So they'll be moving to Jackson Elementary. All this will occur, and they will be moved in by January 2nd to make sure that they begin the start of the new school year. The 2nd is a Friday. That's an in-service day, so it's going to allow for all the staff to get unpacked as they pack in their boxes currently now, and they'll get moved in on the 2nd and have some time to get unpacked and get ready for school, where the students come back on the 5th. So safety and building monitoring, staff and students, their safety is our top priority. So the building remains safe and current use, because one of the things, we have ongoing monitoring that are occurring underneath the building at Chester Lewis. So weekly, we have structural engineers going underneath to make sure there's no change in what we're seeing underneath. And the good news is there hasn't been any shift or change in what we've currently seen. So right now it is safe for our staff and students to be in the current building, but we're getting them out as soon as we can, which will be the end of the semester. Our next steps, November 20th, we had our staff and students, they were notified on the 24th. We had boxes, labels that were delivered, and I believe yesterday we were at Chester Lewis, and we saw some of the teachers already packing up their belongings and some equipment, some items, getting ready for that move. The 20th through the 4th, we have a community outreach. Obviously, we have tonight for the Chester Lewis community. We just now finalized our Cleveland Elementary community meeting, which will be December 11th at 6 p.m. at the South YMCA. So we're happy that we finally got that finalized. We wanted to release that information as soon as possible. We know that not only this community is impacted by the change, but the community at Cleveland Elementary will be impacted. They're going to see more buses coming around there, and they're going to see students and staff coming into their building as well. Tonight, or December 1st, past Monday, we had a presentation to the Board of Education. Similar presentation to what you're getting here tonight, we presented to the board. And on the December 22nd, deadline for boxes to be packed, so we're asking all our staff at Chester Lewis to be boxed up and ready to move. We're going to have our facilities department help move our staff from Chester Lewis to Cleveland. That's going to occur over the holiday break. And then on January 2nd is where our staff can set up in their new building to prepare for our students to come back on January 5th. Because of the inconvenience, we have additional compensation for all employees that are impacted, which includes some extra addendum days and extra hours for packing and unpacking. So they will be compensated for the extra time that they're spending. We know this is a huge inconvenience for them. I can't say enough about the Chester Lewis faculty and staff and how they've really been understanding, but also being a great partner and cooperating, collaborating with the move in particular. It's not easy, obviously, to make a change for the community, but it's not easy to make a change for our students and our staff as well. So we're happy to provide extra compensation for this inconvenience. Extra help will also be available when they return on January 2nd to help them unpack and get their rooms ready. So we're going to talk about some frequently asked questions. So I'm going to ask Corinthian if he would come up and and you want to get your handouts ready, because on your handouts will also be some frequently asked questions, because we know there may be some questions that we want to address before the end, but we've heard from the community some of these questions that we want to make sure that we do address. So Corinthian.
Thank you so much, Gil. Good evening, everyone. Before I get started, first I want to again thank Reverend Dr. Brown and Tabernacle for hosting us this evening, and thank you all for being here, being the amplifiers to take back good information to community. I would be remiss, since I'm standing up in a church, to not use some church language. So for the time that is mine, I'm going to go over frequently asked questions. So if you do have your handout out, it will be the back side of that handout. In the bottom right quadrant, it has FAQs, which stands for frequently asked questions. So that first question, what happens to the name Chester Lewis? So I want everyone to know that the Chester Lewis Alternative High School name will, everyone say will move with the program to the new location at Cleveland. So I want to make sure everyone knows that. So if anyone asks you, that name will move and be at Cleveland. The second frequently asked question we have is, will my students still receive transportation? So spelled out on that FAQ handout you have, all students currently receiving transportation will continue to receive those transportation services, and newly eligible students, due to the relocation that meet the distance requirements, will receive transportation services as well. For relocated students, there will be no changes in food service. Also, we are in the process of engaging the Kansas State Department of Education through this building closure process, and we'll be reporting back next steps based off of their guidance. And then lastly, as Gil mentioned, the meetings that you all are attending now, also on December the 11th, I believe is the date, at the South Y, we'll be meeting in the Cleveland neighborhoods. So that is all the time that I have tonight, and if you can go to that next slide, please. I want to invite up my colleague, Ms. LaTanya Kennedy, to close us out.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Well. I'm reminded of a story of two stones. You have a rough stone, and it's something that's hard to believe, and then you have a smooth stone, something that's easy, and they both can be held in the same hand. So as we think about closing down Chester Lewis, which has many memories, and also Matheson, that's a hard stone. But there's also hope with that, and a smooth stone. One of the things that we have decided as a district is that that facility, if you'll go to the next slide, please. Thank you. As part of the facilities master plan, we are hoping to build an early childhood center on that site. It was interesting coming in, I heard the staff saying, I hope they don't put a Quick Trip there. We are not planning to let a Quick Trip come into the neighborhood. But something that will be beneficial to the neighborhood, at early childhood center on this site. And I do believe there's a slide that has what that might look. So if you'll go to that next slide, just so that you can see the vision that we have as a district, that will be a great thing for the community. There's not one like this in the community. World state equipment, wonderful teachers preparing our students to be kindergarten ready, which is also a part of our district strategic plan. So the plans for that site is to put an early childhood center there. Thank you. You may go to the next slide. But what I'm here for, as I talked about that smooth stone and also the rough stone and how they're both in the same hand, we want to recognize and celebrate not only Chester Lewis, but also Matheson and the memories that are there. I had the opportunity to speak to Gerald Norwood, who attended Matheson, and he said it would be wonderful if we could have a brick when they take that building down. And I said, well, that's something we could do possibly, right? We don't know when that will happen, but we know that we want to celebrate Chester Lewis and we want to celebrate Matheson and the history and the legacy and the memories that you have. So you were given a handout as you came in. It is very important to our district that you have voice in what this looks like. And so tonight, what I'd like to do is give you just a few minutes to fill this out. We're going to take it on your way out the door so that we have some ideas. I realize that I didn't put a name on here or a phone number. Every teacher should always put a place for a student's name. So if you will put your name and number on here, because I may be contacting you to get more information about what that celebration might look like and have you be a part of the planning of that celebration. So the first question says, what values or memories do you hope are preserved in its future use, in the future use of this particular site? Values, memories that you have of Chester Lewis or Matheson's that are valuable, we want to keep those going. So if you'll just list anything there. The other is, what other celebratory ideas might we consider as we close this chapter of the building? So if you have some thoughts or ideas, one thing that we've been playing and toying around with is Voices of Matheson, and having some of the previous students be videotaped with stories of Matheson's and share that at our celebratory event. So we're thinking in that vein. So if you'll take just a few minutes, if nothing else, write your name, number on here. If you have an idea or a thought as we're finishing up today, write those down, and then I will collect them at the end of this meeting. Okay? Is there anything else? Can you put that slide up? I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. There you go. Go back one more. Or two. Oh, and she's right here. I'm looking here. All right. Yeah. I think that's it. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Can you speak into the mic? Yes, her question was, if you're like her, she's driving around, or like me, in the middle of the night, you wake up with an idea and you want to contact us in order to share that idea. My contact information so that you may do so. If you'd like to write this down, you may do so. You can just call the district at 973-4000 and ask for the Family and Community Engagement Department. They will get you over to me, and then we can chat in the event that that idea comes to you at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay? I think we're ready for the next slide, please. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you both. As we close, we definitely want to hear from you as well. If there was quite a bit of information that was shared with you, so if you have a clarifying question, or if you have a question about this whole process, we have some mics over here to the left, or to my left, your right. You could feel free to get up and ask a specific question, but we do acknowledge these types of changes are difficult because of the traditions and the traditions and history of these buildings. So it's something that we take pride in as well. We understand that difficulty, but we want to definitely celebrate and honor that history and tradition of our Chester Lewis building, because once again, the Matheson building is what we call it, as well as Northeast Magnet after that, and as well as Chester Lewis. A lot of things, and a lot of great people, a lot of great students have walked through those halls, and we want to recognize and honor and celebrate. So another thing we're also thinking about is an open house to make sure maybe sometime in January or February where people can actually tour the building, Go back and see classrooms if you know people that walk those halls, take pictures. So we're looking for a celebratory opportunity as well for a walkthrough and a tour. So with that, I'm open for any questions or clarifying questions that you may have at this time. Yes, please, if you would. Or Lauren, if you don't mind passing the mic around, that'd be great. Make sure it's working. It should be on. Yeah, no.
Yeah, thanks. I'm mostly here because I was an alum of Northeast, 98 to 2002. So that school, holds a lot of memories to me. I really appreciate that you guys are real concerned about, realizing it's more than just a structure and more than a building. I think that's great. Those are some awful scary looking photos you guys got there. I'm sad to see those, but I guess I'm glad that you guys are getting down there and getting into the nitty gritty of this. I'm sorry it was my high school that got hit. My question for you is, you guys are doing this process, and I think this is great. What about North and East and all the other schools? Is there any other concerns at those sites, or is this just a one-off?
Well, it was actually a great question. It was actually North and East High that prompted us to continue to do more evaluations of our buildings, especially the ones that were 70 to 75 years old, because East High has already had some significant renovation, and North High has gone through some significant structural damage as well, even underneath specific parts of that building. So it's actually getting repaired at this particular time. So there's been a lot of money that has been put into that, is why we also are looking into a bond issue in the future. And we know that that could help remediate some of these older buildings that we have across our district. But those two buildings in particular prompted us to be able to go look and start evaluating our other buildings that are 70 to 75 years old. And right now, Chester Lewis, and we're still doing that as we go. We're still monitoring those buildings, but we caught Chester Lewis, and it wasn't just the structural damage, but there was also some sewer damage that was happening too. But we had to mitigate that fairly quick, so they can stay in there now until the end. So we'll continue to evaluate as well. Yes.
What caused you to find out about the foundation problem, and how long have it been going on, or do you know?
Yeah, I don't have a time frame of when it happened, but because of the North High and the East High prompted us to get a structural engineer to look at our buildings that are 70 plus years old. They're the ones that went under in Chester Lewis beneath the building to look at the structural damage in there. And when they went, they told us that the damage was pretty significant, that it's better off, that something's going to have to be repaired. And due to how bad it was, we said, out of abundance of caution, we're going to move our faculty and staff out of Chester Lewis. So it could have been that way a long time. It could have been just happening so often every year. We just don't want to take any chances on the safety of our staff and students.
I was noticing by some of the pictures, now I had the same question, of how long did it take to realize that the structure was damaged, the plumbing was falling apart, and looking at some of I can't even, no, not the pillars, not the pipes. What is that over the structure? That, I'm drawing a blank. The metal bars. Okay, because it looks to me, now my husband does structure and does plumbing, and occasionally I'll go and I'll see in how asbestos was used in the building. He said it's 75 years old. And that there, and I can't see from afar, looks the wrap on it. I don't know if it looks like, it couldn't be padding because of the age of the building. So when I see that, to me, it looks like that it's that old. the wrap is 75 years old. And that brings me to the question of when did anybody realize that the structure was falling apart, the plumbing was falling apart, to see if that's even what I think it is, then I know that it's best to leave it alone. But even was it documented in the structural reports that the things that's there? Because to me, and I don't know, because I'm not a structural person either, but I've worked alongside my husband that does a lot of asbestos back in the day removal. Okay, and seeing how things that would lay for years, the deterioration of that. And that was my question. Did it just come up over within a couple years, or has it been 5 or 10 years?
That's a great question. We're not aware, we don't know at this point how long ago this started to happen. What we do know is, obviously, if there's any construction that occurs in any of our buildings that has asbestos, then we have to do some asbestos rebatement. So when we went under because of what we saw at North High and North High and East High, was the reason. So, and we realized how old those buildings were, so we wanted to make sure that our other buildings that were just as old, to see if we're doing all right structurally underneath. So that's what prompted us to be able to do that. I don't know who else went under there to do any type of evaluation, but we can definitely find out. But at this point, we do know, even looking in there could have been some, not only the sewage, but there could have been probably some flooding that occurred for a while too that caused some of that deterioration.
Yeah, I think Dr. Kennedy talked about the idea of the early childhood center. I think that's the first I've heard of that. I like that idea that you would be able to reuse that. I know that building has seen a lot of improvements with some of the bond issues. You got a FEMA shelter over there now, and a bunch of new classrooms that you guys added that are really nice. I've seen those at my high school reunion. And are you planning to be able to keep those? Can you just tear down the old 1951 part of the building and demo that off and recover some of that investment you guys have made? Because, I mean, that is a pretty big school. What are your thoughts on that?
You're talking specifically the current building, yeah. Right. I don't think we'll be able to, just because of the structure underneath, to be able to even hold any part of that building at some point. So I do not believe we'd be able to save any wings at that point. But if we're going to, in our current facilities master plan, we were wanting to build a early childhood center previously as well. So that's still on our facilities master plan. So either way, if a bond would have passed, we would have put a brand new or built a brand new early childhood center at that site. It just, unfortunately, with this happening, Chester Lewis had to get out sooner than they probably would have anticipated, or even us anticipating.
It's surprising that you had this early childhood center already in mind so quickly to respond to. So tell us more about that. And was the plan for it, I think I do remember it in the bond issue. So was the plan then all along to tear down the old building and put that new, or was that going to be in addition to?
Yes, the plan was originally in the facilities master plan to if the bond would have passed, to build an early childhood center and move Chester Lewis program to another site. But tear down the building, yes, and tear down the building and rebuild a new modern early childhood center.
So this will be the third time that the Chester I. Lewis School has moved throughout the district. I'm just curious to know if there's an opportunity to bring that name back to this part of the community as you continue to build going forward. That and Matheson as well.
It is definitely something that we will consider. We definitely want to keep the Chester I. Lewis name. So whether, because right now we see Chester Lewis moving to the Cleveland Elementary as a temporary. According to the facilities master plan, Chester Lewis was going to be repurposed and moved to Coleman Middle School. The program itself was going to move there with a new middle school for Coleman. So that was in the facilities master plans previously, but we definitely want to keep the Chester I. Lewis. We would have to make sure, does that mean that they lose their name? If we want to build something within, like the Early Childhood Center named Chester I. Lewis, then they would lose their name. So there would be a lot to discuss in regards to how that would look. But we don't want Chester Lewis to lose their particular name. They're doing some great things with our students with graduation rate and helping kids that are in alternative education bridge the gap for their learning and to graduate. So, but we definitely are committed to keeping the name.
I don't live in the neighborhood, but I do work over there, and I work kind of late sometimes with night school. And so just for the community's sake, could you speak on the security monitoring afterward, like security guards coming through once the building is vacated?
I definitely think that's one of the concerns that we had was we didn't want to leave a building standing and then not have an answer for it because it could provide unnecessary vandalism and other things to the neighborhood. So we definitely didn't want that. But we have roving security officers as well that will patrol this area to make sure that we don't have anything illegal or unnecessary to hurt the community. We value the history and the traditions here. So we want to make sure that we take care of the property in that regard. So knowing that if we can, at some point, get it, if it stands, we know that some people are going to try to come in and probably do vandalism and other things, so we don't want that to happen. So at some point, we want to tear it down so we can rebuild something beautiful. The question was, without the bond issue, what's the time frame of it being torn down? We would have to look and see because we don't have a specific timeline, but we'll be discussing that sooner than later because obviously it's a great question for us to answer. I mean, we definitely don't want to do anything before we do any of the ceremony and the honoring of and the tradition and honoring of the building, but I would say as soon as we can, but that doesn't mean month or 2 months. I mean, but correct. It doesn't mean 2 or 3 years. It could be a year or less than a year. Yes, but I don't have my financial person here to say, can we financially do it? Do we have the capital funds to do it? So we'll have to evaluate all that to make sure that we get it done. But we don't want to keep it standing for 3 or 4 years and for bad things to happen. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that feedback too. That's good.
That I am so discouraged with that. I mean, I would love to see early childhood, but I would like to, if possible, to see that stand, because I drive around the community and except for McAdams Park, okay, most of the community is torn down. And if we're going to tear Madison as I know it down, I'm not against early childhood, but does it just have to be early childhood? Could it be multi-purpose to give back to the community? Not just daycare. When the children get grown, that they can come back. They can lease and become entrepreneurs in their own community. So this is really, I'm really having a hard time with this one here, because this is like the last thing standing. And I know we'll have papers, and I know we'll talk. But if possible, I would even like to see it under historical preservation. And I don't know, like you said, $300,000. And the way I hear all of this money being thrown around, 200 million, 200 or 300,000, to me it's a lot. But then I know that when it comes to doing other things that we want to find to do, $200 million, we some kind of way find it. So I'm having a hard time here with it.
Thank you for sharing. We'll definitely take your point into consideration, but we also believe that bringing something new to the community would help as well. But thank you for sharing that. We really do appreciate that as well.
Most of the questions have already been asked, but the one question that I did have was the same as Ms. Gooch had, and that is the time frame for the building as it is. I kind of relate to the young man there because I went to it when it was Mathewson, and you went when it was Northeast Magnet, and so it has some memories for you as well. And as we look at it becoming a pre-K, could there possibly be opportunities for seniors to do something in that building, whether it's computer science or something that pertains to our seniors? I just think that we're looking at something that could still be there, actually. And then another question that I had was air quality of the building. Have we looked at the air quality as those students have been there, and Mr. Parks as well, that part of the building and part of the deterioration of it?
Thank you for asking about the air quality, because we did our listening session with Chester Lewis. We're doing a 85 schools and 85-day tour, the district leadership team, in order to talk about facilities needs in particular. And when we finished Chester Lewis, one of the big things we heard was about, I say air quality, but it was tied into mold. So they had a lot of concerns there as well. So we've heard that, and we've done we tried to mitigate some of that, but it doesn't seem to have fixed the total problem. So that was just one of the added situations that we had at Chester Lewis as well. So we did hear air quality was somewhat of a problem at Chester Lewis from the staff at that too. It was one of the reasons why, another reason why we said, hey, something needs to change, because it wasn't getting better for them either, according to what they were telling us.
I'd just like to say what the lady was talking about, Matheson being a historical building. I have to agree with that. I grew up in this town. I was born in the early 50s. Chester Lewis lived next door to me for 3 or 4 years, so I had the opportunity to meet him personally and got to know him. And I think a lot of people in this community, if they don't ride by Matheson and see Chester Lewis's name up there, they don't understand what major role he played in the black community, not only in Wichita, Kansas, but all throughout the United States. He was very instrumental in Brown versus the Board of Education. And I don't think if the District 259 can spend millions of dollars at East High and North High to redo those buildings, they should have put that money over there too. I mean, he's very instrumental in what happened in Board of Education goes to Brown. And so for them to take that and move that out of the community, a lot of young kids that's growing up in this community, they'll never know what Chester Lewis did for them. And they need to know that.
I appreciate that that information and that feedback as well. It's one of the reasons why we don't want to lose the namesake of Chester I. Lewis either. And I think I'm speaking for the staff, the faculty and staff at Chester Lewis. We want to honor his name as well. So Leroy wants to kind of respond to that too.
Oh, guys. What I'm hearing what they're saying. I mean, my concern was if you're going to abandon the building, tear it down. But I understand that what the gentleman up front was asking, is there anything that could be saved that wouldn't have to be? Like, what about the auditorium? That seems to go down. Is that under all of that foundation? Or is
Yes.
that maybe It is under that foundation?
I
It is?
said that, and I'm saying
Oh.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so it
I've been
is.
down there.
Okay, so
But
it's.
I'll wait, I apologize. I'll
Okay,
wait.
no, that's okay. I just wondered if there was any, I just thought about how it went down. Maybe that would be just something that could be saved, that as a reminder that maybe could become a community type place or something that we could use. And again, we never did hear what was any kind of estimated cost to fix it.
Okay. Leroy Parks, principal over there. I'm listening, and I'm gonna, if you will indulge me just for a few minutes, sir. But I grew up on 15th and Estelle. I grew up right over here, and I remember playing basketball out here. I remember going to the Meth set before it was Lynette Woodard Center. My brother, Levante, is, I'm pretty sure, I know he still has his original letter jacket from Mathewson. He's never wore it, saved it for his son, and then he decided not to let him wear it. So, Latanya, I appreciate the idea or the thought behind capturing. I texted my brother and told him that. But I've been principal over there for 12 years. I've worked in this community for 30 plus years, and I'm from this neighborhood as well. And so I'm going to respectfully say I respect everyone here and the opinions and the thoughts about the structure and the building itself, but it's bad. I'm just going to be honest. It's bad. I've been underneath there. I've been there for 12 years as principal. That was one of the first things before this came about with the facilities master plan, when they were talking about moving the program. That was the first thing I asked about, was the name. And I respect the fact of trying to keep the name in the neighborhood. I'm going to back out of that one. But I will say that structure that facility is in bad shape, folks. I assure you. With that being said, I want to speak kind of more positively. Our staff, when we learned about this 2 weeks ago, our district, my boss Lauren, and we put a plan together. I've been over to the Cleveland site and looked at the site, and that will work while we figure out or work out whatever's going to happen with the bond and all that. That being said, you mentioned the early childhood center. If you're from this neighborhood, you know where Little is over there. And so the majority of the testing for that occurs over here at Chester Lewis to a certain extent. And ma'am, prior to that FEMA shelter being built, so I'm getting you to imagine, but from the FEMA shelter north, that is all old and looks like that. I was down there Monday. So it's not the best situation, but we are seizing the opportunity. When I say our staff has embraced this. We've lived there, I've lived there for the last 12 years. The air quality that was mentioned, our district is zero response. They've been out 20 times this year with mold creep up or whatnot. They come out and clean it, and then 3 weeks later, another little spot here and all that. And so I know firsthand that the drainage system underneath there, the sewage and all that, it's bad. So I just wanted to say that we are committed, and I'm speaking for myself and my staff, Brother Shockett back there, thank you, sir, that to make this happen. I appreciate Deputy Superintendent Alvarez mentioning that what we contribute, what we do over there for the overall graduation rate in this district, through students in foster care and students that just look for alternative situations that come in, we average between 9 and 11% the last few years. I'm talking 300 to 400 graduates a year. So we do great things there, and we'll continue to do that wherever we are. The name, I agree that, be associated with this neighborhood or stay in this neighborhood as possible. This may be unpopular, but something needs to happen over there, and maybe out of this change, something new can grow up that can withstand time or be for a long after me, and I'm talking 6 feet, a dirt nap, that something will be that'll stand there. Because I remember as a kid coming through here and looking at that and playing over there. I played in that gym as a kid, pick up and all that. And I'll finish by saying that we will do our part. I will do my part to lead my staff through this, And we will continue to do great things as this thing works itself out. But it is unsafe, and they did come out. I say they came out and listened to us about some of the issues that we're having in that building. I'm trying to shut up. We have dehumidifiers in every single classroom because in the fall, when the weather changes or whatnot, the doors don't shut. The doors change and whatnot. So we've invested in dehumidifiers in every classroom. Shaka can speak to that. So and we're dumping those two times a day and all that. So there's a lot of issues inside that you don't really see from the outside that are occurring there. But our district has been great at responding to our needs, and so we will continue to do or try to do great work.
Thank you, Leroy, for sharing. Just to quickly answer the question of how much would it pay to renovate, I don't think we would. It would be cost ineffective if we tried to renovate. We would have to build new on that site if we were going to do anything, just because of the structural damage that they currently have. So we wouldn't be able to add on or anything like that.
Just to the cost of the pillars and whatnot at the board meeting on Monday, in the consent agenda, where they have most of the maintenance for buildings. At East right now, the mechanical room has a column underneath it that needs to be epoxied and resined and wrapped with carbon fiber, and it was over $1 million for one column, just as a perspective. But I was not speaking of that. He said he was going to back out of the name thing. I'll run into the name thing here because to speak to your point about the name moving schools at different times and whatnot. I went to Lewis Elementary, which is now Enders, and so coming back and working in Lewis, Chester Lewis High School is kind of an interesting thing. But in 2012, when they rebuilt Lewis Elementary into Enders, I'm guessing the board thought it was a pertinent thing to do to rename this building from Northeast to Chester Lewis as the Metro Boulevard came in. And so I would be very much in favor, as a community member and somebody who went to Lewis Elementary at one point, to have an early childhood center, at least with the name Chester Lewis, which seems like it would make sense. Because when we did some research and asked about the name change that happened in 2012, and it seemed like they were just like, oh yeah, we'll name this one Enders and we'll name that one Chester Lewis because it's in the community where it should be. So yeah, if they're going to build one, yeah. I mean, that seems like a relatively useful thing. And for years, Lewis Elementary, I know at least was 2 decades because I went there, my brother went there, cousin went there, and so there's precedent for a elementary level to have Chester Lewis's name on it.
That is a good point.
I just want to kind of piggyback on some of the things that you said, and one of those was that you feel like we've lost so many things, and that we seem to be always on that page where we're having to give up something. We have to give up this, or we have to give up that. There are many of us in here that were right down the street. Bonita was right down the street. We came down 18th Street where we picked up everybody along the way and walked to school. We all did that, so we all kind of knew each other, whether we're the same grade or not. We knew each other. So for people like us, that memory and those memories are still hard for us to understand and hard for us to see and to hear. But for me, it was coming into this, knowing that we were going to be here. All the questions, most of them are the questions that we asked from the very beginning. Was the name going to be here? What else can we expect? Can you have a reception following so that people have the opportunity to walk through the building and say, yes, that's where Ms. Brown was, that's where Coach Hightower was, that's where Mr. Spate was one day when I almost got in trouble. But but it's those things that are hard for us to see and to hear. It's kind of like a house that was torn down in the Rock the Block area, and I know that that lady was killed by the house that she lived in because we jumped the fence to feed a lady there, and she eventually died because of the overheating. And this feels like the same way. So when that crane came along, they asked me if I wanted to sit in the seat and take a yes, I did. I sit in that seat and helped take that house down. But for us, this is nostalgia. This is memories. This is a time that it was before busing, and so we didn't have to worry about going back and forth. It's a lot of memories, and so it's hard to give up something and continue to feel that we lose something almost every other year.
Thank you for sharing.
Real quick, I know that and I was going to talk to you, but I'll say it now, that the original Mathewson plaque is in there. And so I was at principal's meeting all day today, but I was thinking about we've been going through and trying to target certain things in the building that might be associated to tag to be saved before the building is torn down. So that's okay. We're having those conversations. I know where that plaque is in the northeast corner over there, but to tag and label things to save, I don't know what to do with it, but I mean, or where it'll go. But just to answer your question, we're looking at that stuff.
I think Levanta want to take it home, put it on her wall, maybe. Levanta will want to take it home and put it on her wall, probably. Thank you for doing that too, and thinking about that and honoring it.
Talk to our fine arts department to be able to walk through there and what art and what things exist in there that we want to save. So that's all been part of we have a weekly, what are we going to do, meeting related to this space and talk through all the pieces. And part of that meeting right now is who can we bring in that will know what's valuable in that space and what holds so much weight in the hearts of people that other people might not know does, so that we can walk through and save as much of that as possible. Now, what we do with it, again, is to be determined. That might be something great as well if you have an idea on your note sheet to figure that out. But I also just want to say, I just want to validate any of the emotions that we have about this are valid, and you can have them, and we don't want to make anyone feel like they can't have them, because it can be hard, and it can also be probably the best thing at the same time, with two things being true. I think back to Miss Kennedy's, rough rock and smooth rock analogy, which I thought was excellent. So.
In the absence of Charles McAfee, I will say, I'm thinking about what his conversations about Louverture and when in the bond issue, and there was what can we do to maintain, because it's going to be sold, not torn down. But what could we do to save the history and require some saving of that history and remembrance of Louverture and its history? So maybe there could be here in the new facility some remembrance, an area or of history where it could be saved, and some of those things. So, and maybe ask Charles if he can get through to walk around. He'll tell you what to say.
Yes. Oh, I heard all about it. Yes, it was great. It's great. Great history. Actually, and that's a great idea that you share. So thank you.
Yes,
those are the kind of things we want to
idea.
hear.
And if you didn't write that on your paper, if you don't mind writing that on your paper, so we make sure we capture that, that would be wonderful.
Just pausing to see if there's any final thoughts, questions. We're going to collect those so we can get the feedback and the ideas to help shape what celebratory events that we can have. So we just don't want to. We recognize the history and the traditions, and we want to celebrate that. So if there's ideas that we can do, we want to hear those so we can follow through on those. And if you don't have a pen or pencil and you want to email, you can email LaTanya Kennedy, you can email Corinthian Kelly or myself. We'll start collecting that. But we do want, if you filled out something, we want to collect those too. So please hand those to any district employee before you leave as your ticket out, so we can collect those and put those together. And then so as we start to come up with a plan and organize these celebratory events for the Chester Lewis building. thank you all for being here. We really do appreciate it. Tabernacle, you are the best. We appreciate you allowing us to be here. You guys have a great evening and go be brilliant. Thank you.
Saturday.
The Brewer Community
8:30.
Center ribbon cutting is tomorrow, or excuse me, Saturday. Sorry, Saturday at 8:30. Saturday at 8:30.